Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Al Snow's Head. I'm Jarett Orr, joined by our host, Mr. Al Snow. Al, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I just read a headline that a woman that was 23 years old was born without a vagina, has made one out of fish skin in a historic operation.
Wow, that is some breaking news. I'll tell you, this medical stuff just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the fish skin. I guess she certainly went with the right material. So that's
Went with the
awesome for
obvious.
her. Yeah,
Went with the
very.
obvious. It was tilapia, which
Tilapia.
yeah, tilapia is the superfood of fish. Clearly,
I actually did not know that. So a quick little info for some of our Inside Out Snowhead listeners that is the
yeah,
superfood.
yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think you could use any other fish to make, like a shark or something. It'd be dangerous to make a vagina out of a shark.
Well, yeah, no, a shark just certainly wouldn't make any sense. But I don't know. You
Now,
might think
those
like a.
teeth would be unattractive and off-putting, as you know.
Plus, I can't imagine where the fin comes into play.
Oh,
Um,
I can't either.
so we're already off to a killer start here.
Especially if you're
uh,
in the bathtub, she's taking like a bubble bath and you see it floating through like Jaws.
Although the fin, I don't know. I guess it could be something to grab onto for many different operations. I
Provide a good grip, yeah.
Yeah, I could see where that could become beneficial for everybody involved, actually.
The old catch handle.
So we're gonna kick off the second part of the Tough Enough show. We talked about the first part last week. Lots of good feedback from listeners, people that really enjoyed it. A lot of people, just like yourself, said how many memories it brought back and how they kind of started to go back and watch some of the Tough Enough of season 1 and 2 on the network. So a ton of great feedback, and again, we appreciate all of the fans reaching out and letting us know how much you guys are enjoying what we're doing, and if there's something that we're not enjoying, let us know what we can do to make this a little bit better and more fun for you.
Yeah, this is for you, the fans, and you tell us what you like, dislike, want more of, want less of, and we'll do our best to give it to you.
So we've had the WWE Network on quite a bit in our house recently as I've been getting ready for a bunch of the different topics that we're going to be going over. And my son, who's 10, has kind of found the Attitude Era. So he has been just going through all of these different pay-per-views and matches, and he's just feeding me all of these facts and things that he thinks are brand new to him that he doesn't realize that I've already lived through. So he's really getting into the show and into the Attitude Era as well. And in fact, last night, me and my wife were talking, and I was joking around. I said, I'm gonna have to hit the gym this summer. I can't have Al looking bad and having a fat podcast co-host. I'm sure that's not a good look for him. And my 9-year-old son doesn't miss a beat. With a bag of fruit snacks in his hand, he walks by and he goes, "Dad, you guys are only on the internet together. He was real life partners with Mick Foley on TV. I think you're going to be okay." So a
Yeah.
quick shout out to Mick for making me look good. Actually, I don't know if you've seen recently. He just posted pictures. He looks great, Mick Foley.
Yeah.
He's back on another one of his tears, and he's had a new goal weight for him. And I just saw a picture on Twitter, and I mean he really does. He looks great.
He does, and I'll be joining Mick on his 20 Years of Hell tour over in Australia in July. We'll both be, for the first time ever anywhere, on stage together. So, they can watch our verbal boxing match live and in person
You
and
want to know?
watch me verbally knock him out.
I'm happy that that's happening because I feel like your buddy Mick is taking some liberties when Al Snow hasn't been around to spar back verbally. So that's
Oh,
something that
yeah.
I think everybody's going to look forward to.
Oh, I agree. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a blast.
Well, good. Now at least you'll be there to defend yourself this time. So let's hop into Tough Enough because wow, season 3, we cut it off at the end of season 2 last week. Season 3, in my opinion, was my favorite season. One of my takeaways from season 3 that I noticed was that this wasn't just good wrestling TV. This was good TV that I found myself actually vested in and caring about the characters on this show. Do you feel like season 3 had any different feel than the first two?
Yeah, I do. I think that season 3 is a good example of, getting the right, for want of a better term, cast. The kids, had so much personality. I mean, Jonah, in and of himself, was such a character. And then you had Matt Capitelli, who he's such an awesome, fantastic human being, and charismatic, and it comes across no matter where he is or what uh, forum he's in, and they all had really genuine heart and desire. I mean, they really wanted to be there and be a part of it, and and they were fun. They would we really had an opportunity to act and interact with them, and Bill and I played pranks on them, and it was a great environment. It really was. And I think it came across on TV.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that you mentioned last week, and I didn't jump on it because I knew we were going to talk about it this week, was you had brought up the fact that you kind of had to go to bat for who turned into be John Morrison, but John on the show, because maybe some of the people behind the scenes thought that he was there just kind of getting his name out there to be a celebrity or to be on TV, and that his aspirations weren't necessarily to be a WWE superstar. What was that process like? How did that all go?
Well, they had, John had tried out for Tough Enough too, and the people with MTV had passed on him because they felt like he was motivated just to be on TV, to be a television star. And the reason that they did was because he had tried out for some other, you know, uh,
Reality type shows.
reality type show for MTV, and so they were thinking that he was there. He was one of those people that was just really utilizing the format of the reality TV show just to try and make himself a celebrity, which lots of people do. Most people these days, I would say, the largest majority of the population, because we've been so caught up in this cult of personality, would to coin a phrase, that people do no longer pursue things because of a passion or a real desire, whether it be music or acting or athletics. They pursue it to be famous. They want to be celebrities. And, people are so driven to want to be relevant and outside their own social circles that's why Facebook and Instagram and other social media venues are so popular these days, is because it gives an outlet for people to feel like they're relevant beyond just their own little circle, and like they have some modicum of celebrityism to some degree. And and then with MTV, they were very conscious of that, and they were very worried about that, and they passed on John for season 2, and then John went on his own, and I was aware of this, to a wrestling school, paid for it himself, and started pursuing, a wrestling career on his own. And I was aware of this, and then they brought John back. MTV brought John back for auditions for Tough Enough 3. We had done the auditions a little differently, where we had I think it was 25 finalists that we took to LA for a week and put them through the paces. And then we were going to pare that down to the final 13. And John was in that 25. And literally we were going to go for, elimination and go down to 13 people. And, I had to meet with John Miller, who was the president of MTV at the time, and a couple other executives, and make the case for John to be on the show. And needless to say, I mean, John went on to win, rightfully so, and go on to have a great career that he's still enjoying to this day.
And it almost didn't happen for him at that platform just because of some executives from MTV. So pretty
Yeah,
neat
but
that you.
they were trying to protect the integrity of the show, so you can't fault them. And I think because of John's desire, I think he would have went on to have a career anyways. Regardless. And John's a prime example of the fact that you can have all the tools, you can have all the size, the look, the charisma, you can have everything, But if you don't have that real passion, that real desire to want to do this, you're not going to be successful, you know? And I've told people that numerous times. And people, you know, they assume that, you know, just because a guy's got size, oh, you can be a wrestler, or, oh, he's got height, um, you know, or he's really entertaining or whatever. That's the key that's going to unlock the door. But what unlocks the door that makes you really successful, and not just in wrestling, in life in general, is something that you're truly passionate about. You should always pursue what you want to do because you're passionate about doing it. And then trust me, you know, fame and fortune and all that, it'll follow. But if you're not doing it because you love it, then don't do it. Don't waste your time. It's not worth it.
And that was one of the questions that I was going to ask, and you just kind of answered that because I can't help but think to myself, is it really that wrong to want to do something because you can make a bunch of money and meet
No, not
girls
at
and go to
all.
parties? And I mean,
Not at
that's,
all.
I
Not at
feel
all. But
like,
you have to be. I apologize. I want to interrupt. But you
no, go
have
ahead.
to be aware that fame is nothing more than a tool. Fame is nothing more than an avenue to allow you to have more opportunities to make more money and do what you really wanted to do, which was go to parties and make money and live a certain lifestyle. But you got to be smart about it and and realize that that fame isn't just all in about somebody recognizing you in a restaurant and wanting to come up and ask for your autograph. And it's a double-edged sword. You're a public figure now. That means that you're out in the public and you're going to have to take the bad with the good. Whenever you want to be the center of attention, it means you're in the center. That means that all of the attention is not always going to be in front of your face. It's going to be behind your back, and it's not always going to be positive. And you've got to have a thick skin. And you have to, if you're willing and want to be a celebrity, you have to be willing and available for when these people come up and approach you. Now, granted, you can't be on 24 hours a day and you're going to have an off day. And, you know, no matter how good a person you are, no matter what you do, one of life's lessons that I've learned is that you're going to be the villain in somebody's story at some point in time. But you can't sit there and work for and try to get the notoriety and the public recognition and then complain about the very thing that you worked for and achieved and be upset that now these people recognize you and want to approach you at any point in time during the day, that no matter what you're doing, they just come up and want to interact with you. You've got to accept it. And you've got to realize that it's an opportunity for you to now, you have an audience that you can take out and go to other venues and take advantage of other opportunities because of the fact that you have that fame. That fame does nothing more than do that, and that's it. In and of itself, you should never do it for it and it alone. You should be doing it because it comes along with the territory, and then you utilize it to maximize your opportunities to continue to make more money and live the lifestyle that you want to live. But understand this: if you want to live a life that other people don't live, you got to be willing to do things that other people don't do. And most people don't like to do that. They want to be able to live that white picket fence lifestyle that we've all been indoctrinated in since childhood. And if you're living the life in the circus, you're not going to live that white picket fence lifestyle that's 9 to 5, come home, and Ozzie and Harriet. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And you've got to accept that. And you have to find people that are in your life that are willing to go along for the roller coaster ride with you.
So one of the things that I noticed about Tough Enough a lot was that the one thing that you just spoke about was really drilled a lot into the, as you guys called them, kids' heads. That this is, you guys are out, you're going to be away. The normal family life is not going to be here. Now, you had mentioned that you bring the fame on, and it's something that you have to get used to, and it's something that you have to embrace and understand it, and that makes perfect sense. What about the other people in your life? How did Al Snow's kids handle you getting ran up to in restaurants and the grocery store? And I mean, did they get a kick out of it? Was it a pain in their ass? What was that like?
A lot of both, to be quite honest. You know, because they feel, and rightfully so, that when you're gone, you know, you're gone. And then when you come home, it's their chance to have you and have their time with you. And then when you go out in public, there's someone intruding in on their time that they've been wanting to wait for and get, get from you. It's hard. I mean, you've got to, as the person that's in the circus, you've you got to be willing to step up and not take for granted that time that you have with the people at home, and you've got to realize that they've been sitting at home waiting on you to come back, and now you've got to put on the dad hat. You got to put on the husband hat, and you got to be up, and you got to and you've got to be ready to go, as opposed to what you really want to do, which is, because you're physically and mentally and emotionally exhausted, come home and just collapse and decompress, and you'll get those chances, but you got to keep in mind that those people that are in your life have been sitting there waiting for you to return, and then be a part of their life and not just be laying on the couch or watching TV.
Right, absolutely. Now, you had mentioned about Jonah, who I've got here on my notes. Dude, Jonah is such a great television character. Now, I don't know if he was ever going to be a WWE superstar, but for that show, in that setting, I feel like everybody from the Jersey Shore maybe owes him some royalties or a thank you.
Oh
Um, I,
yeah.
I mean,
And let me
he
tell you something, that wasn't a gimmick. That was Jonah. He lives that life. To this day, you try to call him, and he's changed his number 100 times for 100 different reasons. God only knows. I mean, he's a character, from the word is go. That wasn't him putting it on for TV. That was Jonah. He's an awesome. He genuinely is an awesome human being, a wonderful guy. But man, he lives life on the edge. I mean, he's this. You could do your own reality show about Jonah, and it would draw enormous ratings.
so Jonah was the one that made me realize, oh my god, I actually am. Now I binged the show, so I didn't watch it for a week and then wait a whole week like everyone else did years ago. I watched it one after the other to get ready for this. But dude, as Jonah's walking up to the top rope to do that moonsault, I got up off the couch. I was standing up. I wasn't sitting down anymore. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, man, please don't land on your head. You got this. Do it. And then he lands it, and I'm like, dude, this is a 15-year-old TV show that I'm this excited, invested in right now. But it was really, it really showed me that, wow, these are great characters. And it wasn't just Jonah. Like you said, the whole house was awesome, but Jonah really stuck out to me as somebody because Matt and John, they felt like wrestlers. I felt Jonah, I felt like could be in the next reality show, like you said, starring just him.
Yeah, yeah, and he had such a great sense of humor and a great personality, and he was fun to be around, and he was always positive, and no matter what came his way, he was always able to see the positive and see the right side of things, even when he made his own problems.
And he certainly did do quite a few of those. There was nothing. I gotta believe that Jill was put in the house simply to because of her and Jonah, and there had to be a little bit of excitement there. I'm surprised that didn't get to go on longer, but she got the hell out of there, which again was made it a TV show more than just a wrestling show, which how you talked about would draw in a lot of the non wrestling fans and kind of turn them into wrestling fans just because of it.
Yeah.
Um, so here it is on season three. Tough Enough is a big deal. The first two seasons were great. Season three is kicking off. Are you telling me that there's still no MTV money in Al Snow's paycheck?
No, no, I was paid by WWE.
Now, at this point of your career, was this something that now I know you enjoyed training and enjoyed teaching, but this had to kind of be nice for the body a little bit too, to still be collecting a paycheck, but being able to take, 9 or 10 weeks of the hard work. I mean, I'm training, you're still working with these guys and do it, but you're not going out in front of the arenas every single night. Was it a nice little break for you in the action?
Physically, I mean, it was hard. I mean, because we were, we'd work 12, 13 hours a day sometimes, or more, and every day. And it was awesome. I mean, it was probably one of the most pleasurable things I've ever done, outside of actually being in the ring, and in those key moments, those moments that you live for, that addict you to want to do this sort of thing. Being a part of Tough Enough was was just amazing. I mean, it was such a positive environment, and it was so much so enjoyable and so much fun, and you were still part of the wrestling business, and you were still contributing, but just in a different forum. That you didn't have a lot of the same pressures and stresses, and you didn't have to be so on guard and always evaluating and playing poker and playing chess. You could kind of just do what you do.
So, one scene that sticks out to me from season three was Bill got a little pissed at Jonah after he had misspoke around the campfire, and Bill kind of walked up to his own, and Jonah was able to walk up to him, bring him a beer, apologize, and they were able to talk it out, and he got a nice little lesson from Bill there. And the first thing that I thought of was during the seasons of Tough Enough, did the kids have this kind of access to you and Bill and whoever the trainers were throughout the time and to kind of pick your brain? Is that something that's acceptable to do with your trainer?
Yeah, I mean, it's always acceptable for you to do it with your trainer, and you build those relationships. And I think initially MTV, the first season, didn't want them to create that relationship with us. And then they realized that it was inevitable and it couldn't be helped and that it was going to happen. And then, two and three, they kind of left the door wide open. And three, it really was the one that where it really happened the most. And, where we really developed a bond and playing pranks on them on a regular basis, not just once in a while, and having just a great time. It was such a positive atmosphere.
That's got to be so huge for somebody who wants to break in the business and that is attempting to break into the business and is working at it, to have people like you, Bill, Taz, Ivory, whoever it may be at that time, to be able to sit down and pick their brain and just kind of talk about wrestling with people that know it. I can only imagine. It's difficult for me right now in 2018 doing a podcast with you to not just call and message you all the time and talk to you about wrestling, because that's all I ever want to do, and I always have a million questions. But everybody's got a life that they're living and going on. But as I see that, I have thought to myself, I wonder now, did they take advantage of that a lot? I mean, did you have guys that wanted to sit down and talk about wrestling when, well, I guess the cameras were always rolling, right?
Yeah, they were always rolling 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I mean, they were constantly. They had little lipstick cameras. That's what they called them, positioned, around the house, and there wasn't a place that they didn't have cameras and weren't recording things that happened.
Were the trainers being cameraed 24 hours a day as well?
No, they weren't being cambered 24 hours a day. We had our own, places that we went. We went back to our hotel or our rooms and at night, and so we had a little bit of time to get away and do our own thing. And the talent, the kids were, of course, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they were in the house. We had our own, had some off time, some downtime that we didn't have to be on camera and being filmed.
Are you okay? Are you having a wrestling match right now?
No, no, I'm looking for stuff around my desk while I'm
Okay,
talking
all
to
right.
you.
I just wanted to make sure if you were okay.
Yeah.
So, how did the kids in season three? The dynamic in that house was so strong. How did they handle the being filmed all of the time? I mean, was there anyone ever complaining about this? Because you never see anybody saying, "Cut, get the camera out of my face, leave me alone for a few minutes." Was that ever an issue?
It was one time there was an issue, a young girl, when we had the 25 trying out, and the stress of being filmed and all that kind of pushed her over the edge, and she had a little bit of an episode, and which resulted in they had to have her parents come and get her. She kind of broke, kind of cracked, kind of snapped because it just was, physically and emotionally, and it's and with cameras on you all the time. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's tough, and it ended up the pressure really got to her, and she they had to let her go, had to send her home.
One of the things that I noticed is the incredible relationship, like you said, that you had built with the kids. Now, it's got to make it a little more difficult at cut time and to be, well, maybe it doesn't. I guess my question is When I hire employees, okay, I don't build personal relationships with them for a reason. We don't hang out outside of work. It's not that I am cold or informal, but we're here to take care of business, and I don't want there to be any confusion between whether I'm your friend or your boss. Does that make it difficult when you're training? Because I think you guys were like, it felt like a group of friends a lot of
Yeah, yeah,
times.
those eliminations were very hard. I hated them. Absolutely hated them because I hated the fact that I had to, for TV purposes, I had to sit there and draw them out. I had to, make it a dramatic moment, and it was torturing those kids. Where, quite honestly, where you would walk up to them and you'd lead them to believe that they were going to be the ones that were going to get cut that week, and then you'd swerve them and you'd go off and talk to somebody else, and I got really good at that. I mean, I got really really good at it, and the producers were, they loved it because it was great TV.
It really was.
Bringing it up and really drawing it out and having people hang on the edge like that. It was tough. I mean, the day would come, the elimination day would come, and I'd be like, oh God, not again. Because I hated it. And it was, you'd watch. I mean, and some of these people, they just broke down and, they'd cry and they'd fall apart. I mean, it was not fun. That's for sure. It was nothing that I relished. It was nothing that I enjoyed
No, you
in
could
any
tell.
way.
You could tell that you were visually. I mean, you were visibly emotional during some of those towards the end, and it wasn't acting. It wasn't you. You could tell that it was something that seriously bothered you.
Oh yeah, it bothered me a lot. I did not like it at all. But like I said, I was, and I'm not putting myself over, but I was good at it, and was able to really make a moment, make a dramatic moment, and which was what I was there to do. But it was not fun to do. That's for sure. I didn't relish it at all.
So here's a dynamic that I want you to talk about a little bit, and I'm sure that you have know people that look at this both ways, and it's very similar again into my business when we would train new salespeople. Okay, so it would appear that as you're in there and tough enough that you are training guys that could possibly be taking your spot on TV in a few months, in a year,
Sure.
guys that could be moving up above you on the ladder. So the thought process would be, screw that, why would I want to help them? They're just going to take my paycheck. The thought process that I always had before I had my own sales business, when I was a salesman for a company, wherever it was I want to have the best possible salespeople around me to make sure that our brand is strong as possible. Because I would hate to run into somebody and say, hey, come down to the dealership and see me. And they go, hey, I went out down there 3 months ago. I ran into a guy. He was a total jerk. I'll never go there again. So I wanted to make sure that the people around me were doing it the right way. What was your thought process? I mean, did you think in the back of your mind, shit, if I make these guys too good, it could cost me a little bit of my money? But at the same respect, you want to make sure that you've got the best possible workers around you to make sure that the brand is strong as possible.
True. And ultimately at the end of the day, though, it's personal pride because I've said this before. I'm being held personally accountable for whoever I break into the business. And so they are carrying my reputation around with them. So I want them to be the absolute best that they can possibly be. Because if they succeed, I succeed.
So I'm happy you brought that up because the next thing that I want to ask you about is when you were training people for Tough Enough, when you had the body slammers in Ohio, you were hoping that you were training the next WWF champion, next WCW champion, whatever it was. You were the people that you're training. There's a ton of pride that goes into them going on to being a big name. And I was trained by, Al Snow. Now that you own a territory, the feeling's got to be a little bit different knowing that you're going to be training these guys and eventually they're going to be moving up and moving out of OVW maybe. Does
I
that
hope so.
does that
I hope
feel any
so.
different? So you do hope so.
Absolutely, I do. Because for each and every single person, and I tell them, these kids, they don't get it. I mean, they've got their, because let's face it, when we were kids, We had our heads so far up our asses. Like I had my head so far up my ass, I needed a glass stomach so I could just see where I was going. But they do too. And what makes it worse is they're wrestlers. So you cannot find a bigger group of narcissistic, self-involved, egotistical, arrogant, needy, insecure people on the planet. I mean, it's just not possible. And you're teaching them an art, which is subjective, not objective. And they have a very limited scope of a worldview because of their lack of experience and age. And, I tell them and try to impress upon them, even when I was training, for WWE, that there's nothing that I'm going to do to hinder you. I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to let you benefit from my experience so that you have the best possible chance of success. And the reason that I'm doing that is not for some, holistic or sanctimonious reason. It is because of the fact that at the end of the day, the more you succeed, the more I succeed. The more you are become a superstar, and the more superstars I turn out, the more it is my legacy, and it's what I leave behind in the business. Not just my career, but all of the other careers that I have started or have helped or been instrumental in some fashion in allowing them to reach the levels that they did. So there is no reason on earth that I would ever do anything to prevent that from happening. And in fact, the more that I can have these people come in, train, gain experience, and then go on to achieve their dreams and successes, the more successful I am, the more it drives other people who want to come and be trained by me and look for my guidance. So why would I ever not want each and every single one of them to go on and main event WrestleMania?
Well, of course you would want them to do that, but it's I almost think of it again. I'm a huge hockey fan, and I love watching AHL hockey, which is just underneath the NHL. The AHL is where your guys go.
Oh yeah, yeah. AHL is or ECHL too.
Yeah, the ECHL as well. And I always am so impressed by these coaches that their job is to build great players. And the second they've succeeded at that, their player is gone and is up to the big club. And they have to keep coaching a team that's competitive and successful. And it's got to be a difficult dynamic because how are you? Okay, hey, you're doing a great job because you're turning guys up into the big leagues here, but your record sucks down here because we keep tossing new 17-year-old kids in every time you make somebody a. So it's an interesting dynamic, and it's one of the things that I always wondered about. Like OVWs or even NXT, I guess, any place like that where your job is to get your best guys out of here.
Yes, it is. And it is, and great thing is that nature abhors a vacuum. So when one person leaves, it gives opportunities to new people and then, creates new possibilities and new directions and new creative ideas and, keeps things fresh and keeps things moving forward. So, the one thing you can count on in life is change. And change isn't bad. I know we all hate it and we all fight against it. And, that's what causes stress and anxiety is the fear of change and the effort to try to control something that you just can't prevent. But listen, everything dies, everything. And I don't just mean people or animals or plants. I mean, everything dies, meaning that everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Everything. Everything's a story. So you have a start, a middle, and a finish. And you have a person in a territory for a certain time. They come in, they have the run, and then they move on. And then a new person comes in, and you have a new story. Because how boring would it be for you to have to reread the same book over and over and over again? Now you get a
Terrible.
chance to read something brand new and get taken on a brand new ride that otherwise you'd have never had the opportunity to read and never be able to go on that ride if you just stuck with the exact same book or the exact same television show or the exact same podcast. You would never be open to those opportunities that would never have happened. And the same goes for life. Just because you lose your job, yeah, it gets hard. Change is painful, and it sucks. But then you've got to be able to open yourself up to even newer possibilities and new directions and new opportunities and new adventures that will all come out of that, and new relationships.
I agree 100%. Somebody told me a long time ago. He said, "When life closes a door, you know what you do?" And I
Yeah,
said,
you'll open a window.
"Go out a window." He goes, "You could, or you could just open the door. You know that's how those things work, right?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I could just open the door again and walk out of it." It just as a little old guy I worked with in a
Well,
part
you'll
department.
find another door.
Yeah, it
You'll
was.
find another door and open it and go out.
At what point did you know that it was gonna be John and Matt in season three?
I always saw something in John, and we and everybody, even from the start, saw something in Matt. It was always that way. He was so charismatic, had so much of a persona and a presence, and you could just genuinely feel how good a person he was. But then you had Jonah, who was such a character and had so much personality, and you just didn't know for sure until just as they continued to evolve, and you just knew it comes down to timing, and that's who you pick to win is not necessarily based on who had the most talent or who was the most charismatic or who was this or who was better or who was bad. You based it on, is this the right thing at the right time for the right reason for this person? Because if it isn't, it's not going to work. Doesn't matter how good they are. It's just not going to play out. So, a lot of times I would have conversations with them and say, hey, this ain't for you right now. Doesn't mean it ain't for you. It might be for you in 6 months. It might be for you in a year, but you'll have it if you want it. It's just that if I give it to you right now, instead of having a career, you're going to have a year run and you're going to go away. So you're better off waiting and coming in later. And that proved out for both Nowinski, Josh Matthews, every person I had that conversation with. It proved out that it was true. Kenny King went on to have an incredible career, still has one, still going strong.
There was a ton of them,
Yeah,
absolutely, and
ton of them, and it proved out. I was right about them when I would have those I wasn't just giving them lip service. I was being honest. If I let you win right now, it's not going to work. It's just not the right time. It's not the right thing for you. You're not the right piece of the puzzle. You're not going to fit. And if we wait, it's going to benefit you so much more. You're going to have so much more. You're going to go so much further than what you will if I give this to you right now.
it was such an incredible watching them come along. Please tell me that you were doing the "I told you so" dance each week as John got better, and then eventually as he won. Please tell me that you rubbed that in somebody's face that they were going to let this kid walk away.
No, but I didn't have to. I mean, they all came up and were like, you were right, and they saw what I had seen. I didn't need to say anything to anybody. They came right forward and said so themselves.
All right,
And I'm
well,
telling you, the people with MTV, I mean, every one of them, all of the directors, the producers, John Miller, everyone. I can't remember Ken Mock, all of the audio and the camera guys. I mean, everybody it was such an awesome environment to work with everyone. I still stay in contact with a lot of them to some degree or another because they were such awesome people, and it was such an amazing environment to be a part of and be involved with. It was such a fantastic thing. It really was, and not just the kids, but like I said, every single person that worked on that it was just great.
so the most talked about topic, I think we all know what it is from season three. Um, you guys bring in a few guests to work some matches towards the end, and Bob Holly beats the shit out of Matt Capitelli.
Hmm.
It's been talked about a ton. Bob Holly's talked about it. Bob Holly has talked about in interviews how you were very upset with him and you guys kind of had it out, and it just, you guys are friends, and, he had a different view on than you did. He's come out later, said he had an injured neck and he was in a bad mood, and
And he was, yeah. It was a lot of, there's a lot more that went to it too, again, the pressure and you have a lot of people there that are trying to instigate or, create a situation because they want good TV. They know Bob's in a kind of a rough mood, and, so they kind of push him, and things happen. And then, of course, it seems a lot. It was bad. It was not good, but it seems a lot worse because of the fact that it was great TV. It's probably one of the highest rated episodes. Because the editors and everybody do everything they can to accentuate the drama of the situation by adding music and quick shots, and then it lives on in perpetuity. Because it was a very emotional, dramatic moment for the show. And then Bob, who made one mistake and and had a bad day, and it got to live on forever, because it was on film.
now everybody makes a really big deal about that. And again, like you said, it wasn't good. But that doesn't seem that much worse than what somebody might call somebody who just works really stiff or really tight in the ring. I mean, you run into somebody who works stiff, as they like to call it, you're probably getting blasted in the ring by that person, right?
It's one thing to work stiff because you hit hard in safe places, in safe ways. But or that's working tight. Working stiff is working, hitting hard in unsafe places, in unsafe ways.
So you're watching it happen, you know right away he's getting tuned up. You're standing on the apron, what's going through
I'm
your mind?
trying to get Bill to tag Bob out, because you got to understand that in our minds, and we're so conditioned that we can't just break character and react when we're in the ring. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So you've got to, I'm trying to Iggy Bill to try to get Bob tagged out so that we can get them separated and we can get Bill in the ring and we can now take control over the situation and slow it down. And without me just physically coming into the ring, because you don't want to expose the business. Even in that situation, you're so conditioned to not wanting to expose the business that you're kind of in a situation where you kind of stuck. You know what I mean? You're stuck over
Right.
there on that ring apron and you feel kind of helpless because, if you were to run in, it goes against everything that you've been conditioned, not taught, conditioned to do, which is to break that illusion that, hey, what's happening is pretty much normal and should be happening. So, it's kind of it was kind of a what do you do type of situation, and you really, I was like, I don't even know how to put words to it. I mean, it was, you knew what was going on, you knew it wasn't right, and you're trying to take control of it the best way you knew how to do it, which was I was trying to get Bill to tag Bob out so that you just get Bill back in the ring and just get it calmed down.
After the match, Matt walks over, shakes hands with everybody, thanks Bob for the match. What an incredible show of character from especially a kid in his 20s. Um, I,
Yeah,
I
because that's
mean,
what you're taught to do. You never sell. I don't care if you whip my ass. I'm not going to let you know it. Because if I let you know it, you've won. And I'm never going to let you win. You're not going to beat me. You understand? I've taken, I can tell you, I can't tell you the number of times I've taken an ass whooping, and bad ones, really bad ones. I ain't going to put you over. I'm not going to sell it. You're not going to break me, and I'm not going to let you win. And Matt wasn't either. He did what he was supposed to do.
it was really one of the most incredible shows of character I've ever seen in television, was that when he was able to walk over and shake his hand. Because I mean, I don't know, I guess losing his mind probably wouldn't have helped out too much, because Bob Holly's Bob Holly, so he's going to do what he wants to do no matter what. But that was just really incredible, and I know it's something that gets brought up a ton to you. It gets brought up a ton to Bob, and it's it's a shame that that happened, and that's what people remember this season from because it was really a great season. And you want to know what? It appears that it's a shame that that's what people bring up to Bob Holly because he seems like a pretty good dude, actually.
He's a great guy. Bob's a great person. He's really, truly is. He really is a terrific person, and will give you the shirt off his back. I mean, he will do anything in the world for you. He really will. And it mischaracterizes Bob because it just caught a bad situation and then made it even more dramatic with slow motion and edits and music and then it, like I said, because it's hot on film, it's out there forever, and people base their judgment of Bob and his character on just those few seconds of what they've seen or what they've heard, when nothing could be further from the truth.
And everybody talks about it like it's so crazy, but I imagine if there was footage of an 18-year-old Al Snow
Oh, sure.
having a nut squeeze off with the Anderson brothers in the middle of the
Listen,
ring.
I was 18 years old, and I was out in St. Louis, Missouri, and doing TV at Wrestling at the Chase, and I'm sure I was doing something stupid. And working with Scott Irwin, Bill Irwin's brother, and he was the Super Destroyer. And he proceeded to rabbit punch me in the back of the head so many times that I couldn't see out of my left eye. Literally was blind in my left eye for half an hour, 45 minutes when I went back to the locker room. I've had plenty of guys have done even worse. And, it's I can't justify it, and I certainly cannot do that to someone who does not live this life, who is not in this world, that cannot see the bigger picture. And I'm not going to justify it. There's really no reason for it to ever happen, but there are times, and I've done it myself with guys that, not when they've done something stupid, but when they've done things that have put me in harm's way or injured me. And a lot of times you got to smarten them up. You got to tighten things up, stiffen up. You got to take them down, hook them, stretch them, make them scream a little bit, make them, squeeze them, so that then maybe you get them under control and get them to calm down. Otherwise, you're putting yourself at physical risk. And again, I'm not justifying any of it. The people can get all offended and get upset. Well, you're justifying, it's okay to bully somebody. It's never okay to bully anybody. But it's a physical business. And to believe otherwise is absurd.
What did you say to Matt? What did you say to Matt when he finally was able to tag out and he got to the apron?
I can't remember, but I remember checking on him and I do remember telling him to go and shake his hand and tell him, don't let him win. Don't let people I give advice to everybody that you're going to take some ass whippings in your life. Don't put them over. Don't sell it. Never let them win, because the minute that you let them know that they've gotten over on you, they've won. And that doesn't mean just physical ass whippings. That means in everything in general. Never put people over. Never let them win. You go on and live to fight another day.
Well, that's incredible advice, and it certainly worked from there. I got on my notes here that you guys, and I remember you guys had the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, come in, and they showed about 38 seconds of his interview. How many hours did he actually talk for?
I don't think he went for a real long time, but he was, you get a chance to have Ric Flair come in and talk to you. I mean, what an opportunity, and to be quite honest, anybody, anytime. And that's why I encourage any of the wrestlers out there, anytime you get a chance to go to one of these seminars, no matter who it is, go, listen, pay attention. You're getting the benefit of one thing that you don't have, and that's experience. And the more experience that these guys have and the more mistakes that they've made, the more benefit you get. And you might hear the same thing said 1,000 times, but in different ways, but you might just one day hear that one thing said in the right way that makes the lights in the room start to come on. And the more lights that come on, the more you can see the room, and the better you have an understanding of what it is you're really trying to do. And go and listen. I used to tell the guys in OVW when they would send down people to talk to the talent. And I'm like, I literally would have killed somebody to have that chance. Literally would have killed somebody to have the opportunity to listen to Ric Flair come and talk to me, or Greg Valentine, or Tony Atlas, or any number of other people. You put the name out there that had experience. I you tell me what grocery store she's coming out of. Make sure it's canned Good Day so she can't push the cart too fast, and I'd run her over with a car just so I can have that opportunity. Don't take for granted those things. Don't pass those things up, and invest the time, the money, and the effort in yourself to learn from every single person and every chance you get, so that you can be worthy of the investment of the promoter and his time and money, effort in you. But more importantly, and most importantly, you're worthy of the investment of time and money and effort that an audience pays to see you. You're asking a family of four, even at $10 a ticket, that's $40 for that family. And that's a lot of money to people. That's not just some, spit in the bucket. For you, some young single guy, it might be nothing. But for that family, that's a significant amount of money. And they're choosing to invest it in paying to see your dumbass in the ring. Look in the mirror. Ask yourself, what have you done to be worthy of that family's time, money, and effort of gathering up those kids, getting in that car, driving to that building, sitting in those crappy seats around people they don't want to sit around, to enjoy and have a departure from all their stress in their jobs, and let their kids have a good time and create a memory to watch you.
Agreed. So season 4,
Yeah.
why no MTV?
MTV had decided that they want all their programming they wanted would be MTV owned, so that they could, of course, make more money off the ancillary funds of their intellectual properties. And Tough Enough was owned by WWE. It was a partnership with MTV. Same with Sunday Night Heat. And so all those, partnership
Agreements
television
and deals,
shows,
yeah.
yeah, all of that went away. And so as a result, Tough Enough went away off of MTV. Then there was a big debate within WWE as far as Tough Enough, and those people that were like, hey, it's exposing the business. And then there are those that were, hey, it's the greatest, it's great television show. It's great for, business. It's great for building an audience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you had the two camps. So the concession was that they would do Tough Enough again, but they would just do it as a part of SmackDown as a segment.
All right, so Tough Enough 4, it's going to be a segment on SmackDown. It had some great talent. Everybody knows, all the names that have come, Ryback and The Miz and Daniel Puder, and, there was a ton of people that have come out there. The Miz, who I believe the most successful to come out of any of the Tough Enoughs. No, not I believe. The Miz won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
The
but
most
listen, don't base, don't you and don't everyone else base your idea of what success is just on, oh, he won this title, oh, he's lasted this long, oh, he's done this. That drives me nuts, because each and every one of those kids out of Tough Enough were successful you know, to the degree that they could be, and they all had a run, and for different circumstances, those runs went for a certain amount of time. And why are we not talking about Josh Matthews? If we're going to talk about length of time and a career, he's had a much longer career, and he's done very well for himself and has been a featured commentator for both WWE and now TNA. We don't ever speak of him. Nobody ever brings it up. And then, Miz, he's won this title, he's won that title. Well, yes, and it's fantastic, I think. And Miz is a very talented individual. I knew that from the start. Absolutely. But the predominant idea is, well, only Miz was really a star. Well, what about John Morrison?
John Morrison was a huge star.
What about Maven? What
Ryback
about
was a
Maven?
huge star.
Well,
Maven
now,
was a huge star.
correct. Nydia had an awesome run. while she was there.
There was
You know?
listen, there was a ton of big stars and a ton of people that had
Yes.
runs, and Kenny's still going,
Kenny's
John
still
Morrison's
going.
still going.
Yeah.
um,
And I'm not taking exception with you. I'm just taking exception with the predominant idea is that Tough Enough didn't turn any real stars out.
no, it turned
And
out
Tough
about
Enough,
15 probably.
correct. Yes, it did. But that was one of the big knocks against it with when there were the two camps in WWE as far as for and against. Oh, it's never really turned out a real star. Nothing could be further from the truth. Those kids were quite honestly bigger stars than most of the people on the main roster because they had much more mainstream television exposure. More people knew who they
Absolutely.
were and as a result, more people knowing who they are, back to our fame conversation, they had a much more valuable brand that allowed them to capitalize to a much greater degree.
Right. Now, all that being said, The Miz is the most successful to come. Who would it be?
Viz is not the Viz is doing great and has had an amazing run. And it's a testament to his talent to continue to do what he's doing. And he's fortunate that the run has lasted as long as it has. And I hope that it continues to keep going and he just grows even bigger. I really do. I sincerely do because he deserves it. He's earned it and has, by all means, is entitled to it, because he goes out there every single time and he earns his spot. It's none of this is ever given to you, and it's certainly not given to him.
Now, The Miz, the reason why I think is because I personally, so in my personal opinion, I think The Miz is the best character on WWE television right now.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
his
without a doubt.
his promos, the way he walks down the ring, the stuff he does on social media with the fans, his all around character, and the fact that he puts on a good match in the ring. I think that the Miz is the best character in the biggest wrestling company in the world right now.
I
So
agree. I agree totally. He never stops selling who he is.
the winner
He
of
knows
Tough
what kayfabe is.
he certainly does. The winner of Tough Enough 4 got $1 million. Now, for all of us fans, was that like one of those big checks for $1 million, or did Vince McMahon just rip off $1 million in cash? How did Daniel Puder get that $1 million that everybody talks about?
Well, he got $250,000 a year for 4 years, and he got the 250 for the first year. Then there was the option for year 2, 3, and 4, and they offered him a contract, but at a much reduced rate because, like I would tell Miz, you don't want to win this contest. You don't want to win that $1 million Tough Enough because when you win $1 million Tough Enough, you have $1 million worth of expectations, and likelihood is you're not going to be able to meet those expectations because you're too green and too inexperienced to be able to be a persona and a personality and a wrestler and a product that they can use and capitalize on to make more than $1 million with. So as a result, you're not going to have that opportunity for very long.
No, Al, it was called the $1 million Tough Enough. Somebody got $1 million. Was it a big check or not?
I'm sure it was a big check, but WWE is probably the one that got that $1 million and more.
I just think that's the one thing that I don't think people realize, that was called the $1 million Tough Enough, but it was not a $1 million prize for winning it. It was.
It was, but it was $250,000 a year with an option for year 2, 3, and 4.
Mm, 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 That is so interesting. So the season 4, you guys did it on SmackDown. You did it in front of everybody. It turned out, like I said, it turned out 3 stars just from season 4, just season
Yeah,
4 alone.
could have turned out even more. Daniel Rodimer could have been a huge star. They just did too much with him way too soon, and he wasn't ready.
Why were these guys so bad on the microphone?
Because everybody's bad on the microphone unless you just have a natural ability to do it. Some people, they get so overcome with anxiety and about speaking that it shuts them down. Brad Armstrong was a hilarious, had so much personality, but on the microphone, you just couldn't get it out of it. Midian, Henry Phineas Godwin, literally was kept around because of his personality, and backstage, everybody loved him, and just this amazing, talented, funny, creative guy. Put him on the microphone, all go away. Put him in front of the camera, go away. Could not generate that out in front of the public. And for a lot of those guys, they had the same problem. And, you just have to come into yourself. The hardest thing for a wrestler to do, and it's the most important and most valuable thing to do, is to develop their own voice, create their persona, like Miz. And some people have that right out the gate, and some people it takes a long, long time to learn and understand and be able to then project and connect with an audience, and to be able to speak from their heart as opposed from their head when they cut a promo. And that sometimes, some people you have to teach, some you can never teach, and some just be able to go right out and do it.
With the eliminations on season 4, the nation voted on him, right?
Yeah,
It was the people at home vote. Would it have gone in the order that you wanted it to go?
No, no. And I was not a big fan of that whole voting thing, but Vince, thought it was a great idea and different, and that was very popular at the time because of American Idol had just started out, and it was a different format. But yeah, man, I wasn't a big fan of it.
Did the kids know that the Big Show was coming out to slam him, and did you tell them you better sell this slam?
No, and I had voted against that and had advised that we should do the chop instead because, no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, he chops you. It's like you're getting hit with a frying pan in the chest.
It hurts.
And
you have to sell
oh my God, there was no way you couldn't. And, I did mention that they didn't even know how to take barely knew how to take a slam. And they, we probably shouldn't do this. And then I was shot down. I'd also brought up, when they had the idea of Kurt Angle going out there, wrestling these guys, I was like, I don't think we should do this. My experience has been that anytime you try to put a shoot situation in a worked environment, you can't control it and things can go wrong. And I would rather we come up with and do something else. And I was told no, and that went south.
And tell me you weren't chuckling.
I was held accountable and held responsible when these things did go bad, and I was told that I was on the mic and I could have controlled it being on the mic. And I'm like, how the hell could I have done that? So
you had to have been laughing a little bit inside when Pewter locks in that key lock, and you've got to be thinking, I told you so.
I was thinking, oh boy, this ain't good. And this is, because you've got Kurt Angle that you're making money with. And now this young kid's just about to damage the thing that's doing the draw for you. So, but I did when we went back thinking to myself, no, I told you so.
Oh,
but hey, what do I know?
So out of all 4 of the seasons, who was your very favorite contestant?
I didn't really, there was no one favorite. I mean, I
Bullshit.
Genuinely, and that's truth. I didn't. I genuinely had a relationship with all of them and enjoyed each and every one of them. And there's no way that, that'd be like saying that you had a favorite. You have, how many kids you have?
I got 4.
And you got a favorite then. You got one that you favor more than the other 3.
Yes, the first one.
Yeah, okay.
No, no. All right, so if you had 2 tickets and you could go on vacation, you could only bring one contestant that was ever on Tough Enough, who would you bring with you to go hang out on vacation?
None of them, because I'd be on vacation. I'd want to be away from them.
Okay, let's pretend that we're doing a podcast and we're trying to
I'm not even going to take
people.
You on vacation with me, so.
All right. What was your favorite season?
You and Nikolai are going to stay there. I'm going to go out and enjoy myself.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't want to go on vacation with Nikolai either.
Yeah.
Was season 3 the one that you had the most fun on?
I had a lot of fun on season 1. It was really, but it was just different. It was different vibes because you had different people. And that was what was so cool, is that each cast, it was a completely different situation. They would always, the MTV, oh, we've got to change this, we've got to change that. I'm like, it changes every time you do it because you have a whole new group of people with a whole different dynamic and whole different interactions. And so you really, as far as format, you don't have to fiddle with it. because it's always new, it's always fresh, it's always different because you've got different kids coming in and they're going to have a whole different vibe and a whole different group dynamic and a whole different interaction with the trainers, and it's all going to be its own.
Well, as far as reality show goes, it was just such an awesome gimmick. There's a lot of podcasts out there that have gimmicks where, if you buy a t-shirt, you'll get a call from a host, or they'll send you a fancy photo or a shout out on their website. And collar and
See,
elbow.
if we want to do that here, we could send them a picture of you naked.
Oh God, no! We want to drive sales. We want people to buy these T-shirts. Although it would be good for, it'd be comedic. It'd be comedic at the very least.
Yeah.
But we don't really have any gimmicks on this show for T-shirts. But we do have collarandelbowbrand.com for all the listeners to visit, and the gimmick there
Yeah.
is just some awesome shirts. So for the wrestling fans out there, collarandelbowbrand.com. I ask you every week, Al, what's your go-to collar and elbow T-shirt this week?
This week I'm wearing the grizzled T-shirt,
I love
the
that one.
old veteran, the old tattooed veteran on the back of the T-shirt.
I love that one. Now, I'm telling you, my wife has actually learned, Al, because she says to me on Sunday night, she says, "Hey, I'm going to go to bed. Can you throw the clothes in the dryer?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "And don't worry, I fished through the hamper and got all your collar and elbow shirts in there." And because she knows that
they're
they're
they're the most comfortable shirts. They really are.
it's
They're
it's
great.
incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, and do we have some sort of discount for our listeners? Is there some way that they can hop onto collarandelbowbrand.com and save a little bit of money on these shirts?
Yes, they use the code Snowman, or if you use any of the sponsored athletes codes out there that you may know, you can save 10% on the purchase of any apparel there at collarandelbowbrand.com. And if we have a sale, let's say we have 20% off, 30% off, 40% off, that adds up. You add your discount code, and now instead of 20% off, it's 30% off. Instead of 10% off, it's 20% off. The discounts stack on top of each other. So code Snowman or any sponsored athletes code, and save yourself 10%. Round up your purchase. You can contribute to the Cauliflower Alley Club and their ongoing charitable efforts. They've been in existence in the 1950s. And you can buy one of the military-inspired collar and elbow T-shirts, and a portion of the proceeds go to benefit the American Legion, who are doing awesome things for our men and women of the armed forces.
Absolutely, and that shirt is just taken off as well, guys. I'm telling you, check out these T-shirts. I know that you're thinking to yourself, I've had T-shirts before. I'm familiar with them, but they're unlike any other T-shirts that I've ever owned before. The material, they're so comfortable. They're really just awesome looking T-shirts, and like I said, this is kind of like the no gimmick needed T-shirt, because it's the shirt speaks for itself. But on top of it, we got an awesome discount for you guys. So, Al, I think we've
And I don't think we want to forget that if you want to look good in those shirts, and I don't want to pander but I do love them, and that is go to sensiblemeals.com, and
oh
you can use the
yes,
code SNOW and save $20 off your first month's purchase. I cannot put these meals over enough. And I'm not saying that for any other reason than I truly, genuinely love them. They're real food. They taste great, but they're portioned in a way that you can achieve your goals, do what you want as far as weight loss, fitness, lifestyle change, whatever you want. It's real food for real people who want real results. I made that up. It's my catchphrase. I think it's awesome. And I eat them. They come pre-packaged. They're frozen. They're fresh, and you stick them in the freezer and you just throw them in the microwave. Saves you time, saves you money, saves you effort, and they're delicious.
and you said for real people too, because again, not that you and your beautiful wife aren't real people, but you guys look like you've walked right off the cover of Muscle and Fitness. Um,
I
uh,
wish.
you got, you guys, you look incredible, and
She
uh,
does. I'm trying
on
my best to keep up with her.
on Sensible Meals, you follow them on Facebook, and there's real people posting results of
Yeah.
people that have lost 60, 70, 120 pounds eating these meals. And a lot of times people think they can't be affordable. It really is very affordable. They provide you with meals for the whole week, and using code SNOW will save you $20 off of the first month. So, really encourage you guys to check this out. You know, Al, one of the things that I noticed during Tough Enough is I always see people talking on the internet now about the incredible shape that you're in, and you are in incredible shape. And you've talked about how you've changed your workout regimen, and that's how you've changed the physique a little bit. But you were never a small guy. I mean, even during Tough Enough, you were still a pretty big guy.
I guess. I mean, I've never viewed myself as a big guy because I've always been around such other bigger men that I was considered one of the smaller guys.
Yeah,
And
in that locker room with guys like that, but not
yeah,
walking around Target, you're not.
I guess not. I don't know. I have a very skewed vision of what's normal because I've been around so many people that have been so big and so much more developed, and that I just felt like I was one of the small guys. So I was always athletically built, but a large part of it was because I just didn't work out, for me, the right way. Whenever I would incorporate more compound movements and more, things that utilized my whole body and my legs, especially my legs, that would be the key. My body would change. And when people ask me all the time for advice, I go, do squats. Utilize your legs as much as possible. They're just like a house. Your body's just like a house. You can't build a good house if you don't have a solid foundation.
Dude, you know who was not eating sensible meals was Ryan Reeves or
Ryan Reeves
Ryback.
would eat anything that was not nailed down.
I mean, they talk about it a little bit. How much of I mean, is this a myth? Are they blowing this thing out of proportion? I mean,
No,
how much
no,
food was he really eating?
he was eating nonstop. He'd eat nonstop. And when we were like one time we were in the airport and he was he had to eat so much that he went over and bought Rice Krispie treats, and he started annoying Bill because he was eating all the time, and Bill like started hitting him. And, until he would stop eating, and then he just went over and got on the moving sidewalk and kept riding the moving sidewalk back and forth in front of the gate while he ate, teasing Bill. You know.
There's an old story about Hogan seeing the Warrior backstage loading up his plate at catering with food,
Oh
and
yeah,
Hogan got all pissed and said, if he can eat like that before, I could eat like that. And Hogan ripped down a huge plate of food. Except for the joke was the Warrior wasn't working that night, and
yeah.
Hogan
Hogan
was,
was.
and he ended up puking all over the place. And
Yeah.
how difficult is that? I mean, can you eat and then go out there and work? I mean, how did that's got
I
to be
used to be able to
tough.
when I was younger. I used to when I was younger. I could. Yeah. There was an old story about Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich. They go out and they do 40 minutes, and Buzz would drink beer and eat hot dogs and everything right before he went out and worked, and about 20 minutes in, Buzz would take a bump out of the ring, crawl underneath the ring, and he'd throw his guts up every night, and then roll back out and go back out and do another 20 minutes. I mean,
Ring
that
crew
was
must have really loved that.
yeah. They really appreciated him doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, tough enough
Buzz was a
for.
lunatic, a complete legitimate lunatic.
I mean, you hear stories about that, about guys like Buzz and Dick Slater and Dick Murdoch, and I mean, you just hear all of these crazy stories about these guys that would just.
They're all true. They're all
Oh,
true. They don't make them up. They're all 100% true.
oh my god, I couldn't imagine. Well, guess what? You couldn't act like that today as a wrestler.
No,
You just couldn't do it.
no.
As any kind of celebrity,
And
you can't
and
do it.
wrestlers are a different breed now. They're not the same. Back then, the majority of the wrestlers in the business, because it was what they did for a living, and if they hadn't had that to do for a living, they'd probably been in jail. And that's not to say because they were anything. They were the most
Right.
creative. They're the most intellectual, most intelligent people I've probably ever met. And I can tell you right now, they were the most eclectic and eccentric people you'd ever want to meet. They had their own way of living. I tell people all the time, I have a completely different worldview than most people you're going to meet. And that is largely because of a large amount of time, the majority of my life that I've spent in the wrestling business. Gives you a completely different viewpoint on life.
I could only imagine. It's so funny as my brain starts thinking as you said, I had a skewed view of what normal is, and I guess spending 36 years in the wrestling locker room will certainly do that to anybody. Give you a little bit of a different perspective of the way to look at things. Um, Season four turned out, like I said, some of the biggest stars. It was I had to go back and watch the Smackdowns. Now I did see a lot of season four because I was a SmackDown viewer, so I did remember a lot of that stuff that went on. Would Pewter have been the winner for you? I know you said that
I
the
would have
order
I would have picked Miz. I would have
you would have
picked
picked Miz if you had.
Mike. Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny because at the beginning, it
But
now I was in.
again, keep in mind, like I told Mike and gave him advice, I was like, you don't want to win because you're going to have $1 million worth of expectations put on you and you're not going to be able to deliver it. So he was far better off in the long run to do what he did and take the route that he did.
Now, Tough Enough ends at season four and it goes away for a little while. This wasn't your only reality show type experience, though, was it?
Nope. And I think we should cover that on the next episode so that we have one more episode that will be even more interesting.
Yeah, that one's going to be a lot of fun, guys. So make sure
Yeah.
you tune in next week and find out about this other little project that a lot of you may not be too familiar with. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to go over a little bit of Al's time in ECW as well next week. That's one thing that everybody keeps asking about, and so we're going to get into that as well. Al, before I let you go, I ask you all the time, what do you got going on this week? You traveling? What are you doing?
I am leaving today for Santiago, Chile. I am going down there for 5 days. I have the Al Snow Wrestling Academy, ASWA, in Chile, in Santiago. I will be going down there to work with the students at the school and the trainers. I have a show on Saturday in Santiago, and then we're also opening up a new affiliate school in Chile in Concepcion. And so we'll have another ASWA Academy in the world. Right now we have four in the UK. We have one in Romania, one in Denmark, one in Portugal, one in Greece, and then we will have the two in Chile, and then we will have the main one, because I will be here the most time in OVW, here in Louisville, Kentucky.
So, a bunch of wrestling schools, you own a wrestling business, t-shirt company, podcast, father, husband. Do you ever have any free time?
I'm beginning to beginning to doubt it. Yeah, I don't think I have much. In fact, while we were doing the podcast, I've gotten a bunch of text messages and stuff that I got to deal with and do before I end up taking off today. So,
All right, well, we're going to let you get out of here. Before we do that, I saw on Facebook that your mother-in-law got to come out and see the legendary Al Snow wrestle
she
last
did.
weekend.
She did.
Did you at this point you still have nerves knowing that she was out in the crowd for the first time? Did you put on a little
Yeah.
bit of an extra show?
I had, I was a little nervous. I was a little worried. I wanted to make sure that, I did well and that it was fun for her, and because that was her first experience going to a wrestling show, and she had a blast.
It's always
She
gotta be
just
interesting
thought it was amazing.
when you meet the parents and you get to tell them that you're a professional wrestler. Um,
Yeah, they always kind of look at you sideways. Yeah, they kind of, oh, okay.
Dude, I spent 12 years as a used car salesman, so trust me, I know the look that you have received.
Yeah,
Well, hey,
you get the kabuki-ish look.
absolutely. We had a lot of fun today. I know that your schedule is packed, so you got to get yourself ready to head out to Chile. We certainly appreciate everything. Again, had a lot of fun. Look forward to next week sharing some more stories with the fans. Guys, Al is at The Real Al Snow. Our show is Inside Al Snow's Head on Facebook, at The Real Snow Show on
Yep.
Twitter. Feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Any questions, comments. Until next time, guys, really look forward to getting back together with Al. Thank you very much. This was Inside Al Snow's Head, and we will see you next week.